The DDHQ has a full house with all the cars here. It's looking phenomenal. But unfortunately, we still have a major issue to deal with. Luckily, there's a good and a bad outcome to this. We have kind of an ultimatum on us, and that happens to be the doorbell for the exact people we need to be dealing with right now. So we got a letter from the city. From the City of Huntington Beach Code Enforcement. Here's a big one. Within 15 days, obtain all building permits for the mezzanine located in the southeast area of the building. That mezzanine needs a permit, and within that time point, you have to get your certificate of occupancy. But there's no permits for that. So the issue was the landlord messed up. They didn't get this place inspected, and that left us with a tug of war with the city because they want all the permits. They want to make sure that the building's safe. The good news is that this is on the landlord and it's on her to get basically what? So basically they have to go and make sure the mezzanine is built properly. So they've actually already brought people in, yes, architects and so forth. The downside, the sad part, why someone's here right now is changes have to happen. These buildings, when you first get them, are these open buildings. And they've added in all these walls and they added in this mezzanine, which needs to be load bearing. If you look, there's these beams, these structures, and there's this beam that runs along that basically holds all of this, this is the ceiling for us, but it's actually the floor for where we were storing tires and all that other stuff. The landlord included that into our lease of the building for 5 years, saying, hey, there's this extra square footage that, I'm gonna charge you for. Well, unfortunately, it's not legally allowed to be there based on the structure. So they need to add in reinforcements. A special guest here, Damon. Hey, what's up, guys? So what are we doing back here? Because I'm no engineer and I'm no construction guy, but I'm really curious at how this is gonna change all this.
They said something was added. They said there were some beams added, but they weren't structurally sound and there was no footings put in. So what that is all of these posts that are in there, yeah, all of these little squares that are there, we actually have to cut into the concrete, put footings down.
How many do you have to add?
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Holy moly.
All of these?
Or do you just take these out and put in new ones?
Yeah, so no, it gets cut out from down here, so we have to support the load, and then we have to put them into the ground.
But do you replace the current post, or do you put a post in between the posts?
No, so they'll be replaced. And then also they want concrete poured along this entire back wall here too.
What? How's that possible? Why?
I don't know why they did it, but yeah, so this whole thing along the back here has to be cut out and a new footing put in there as well.
That's new. You didn't know about that. Does the wall get torn down then?
No, we actually have to dig underneath it and then pour the concrete along the whole backside. The light gray areas that you see on there, that's all concrete.
Oh shit. Basically this wall.
Yep.
And then all these squares. Yep. Do we lose the opening then?
No.
Can you make the opening bigger?
Yeah, I'm sure we could.
Because the issue for us is we got this place to build cars.
Sure.
And obviously when we signed a lease agreement, the landlord was like, hey, this is the square footage.
Right.
It's all of that, it's all of this, and I want to charge you for the square footage up there.
Sure.
So we were like, okay. The deal was we basically signed an agreement saying, okay, that's cool, because back here what works for us is we're gonna put in machinery, and then we're gonna have basically bays for cars. If you count those posts, those bays are now gone. Like I can no longer put a car in between here. Whatever space we had has been cut in half. How are we compensated for now the loss of what was usable square footage for our business versus plus all the invasiveness of having to come in and do all this construction? Anyhow, you're gonna fix this problem.
If those bays are not big enough, things can be done to make it work with a wider span, but you're gonna have to change most of the things that are in here. I mean, you could have the whole thing open from one side to the other if you want, but you're gonna be putting massive I-beams, steel columns in from one end to the other. What this is doing is the structural engineer came in here, looked at what was here now, and if you see how the beams are kind of sagging,
yeah, I noticed
that's what he's doing. So he's putting in a structural support to fill in those spaces to make sure that if you're using the space upstairs for office or whatever it is, that it's not gonna come falling inside.
See the sag? Can you see it in the camera right now? That beam's bowing down.
Oh, you can totally see the sag. Like this one's definitely a lot straighter, this beam, and then look at the sag on this one right here.
Here's the $1 million question. How long would it take to do all this?
Less than a week. Basically, we're gonna have to protect everything. So the cars are gonna have to get covered, everything's gonna have to get covered, because if we're saw cutting the concrete, it's messy as hell.
You know what, it would have been a million times better if we could have just had like the steel beam put in to reinforce everything and then not have
to do anything, but maybe you still can.
Yeah, it's up to the landlord to want to pay for that or not. That's the issue.
Well, yeah.
Because they're footing the bill on this.
So now you guys can see what we're dealing with. This is is no joke. It's a major inconvenience. It's gonna change the way that the DDHQ was first intended by us to be laid out. We were told it's all good to go, building's good to go. They had some paperwork that looked like it was permitted when they built all this stuff, but apparently neither them or the city can find the originals to prove any of that. Could we not just get rid of this mezzanine?
I asked, she said no.
The landlord said no.
Correct. Our lease has this as our square footage. That would change the lease apparently.
Well, imagine like, this is not a small amount of square footage. Well, Dave, what do you think our options are here?
Not good. Because downtime is downtime, but also you have to remember moving all the cars out, moving all the machinery out. The whole idea of having a fab shop is to fab stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a huge pause button after a year of being paused here, so.
Yeah, it's not like we can just drive the cars and park them somewhere else, because like the Mercy doesn't even drive right now.
Easy. It's running.
Threw my Mercy under the bus. I like the idea that you talk to the engineer and say, hey, what's another solution to this? Because this is really like, this plan doesn't work for the current business that's in there.
So if you did the I-beam, when you still have to do the concrete work, there's a concrete work.
There's gonna be some concrete work somewhere. They're usually bigger, but less of them and more spread out. So instead of having 8 of them, you're gonna have probably like 2, maybe 3. To be at one end, and then a big, huge I-beam that goes all the way through, and then everything will connect off of that.
That would be better than concrete everywhere.
See, like these steel beams here.
Oh, here we go.
So these steel beams.
Those look cheap.
No, they were like $80,000 for the beams.
80 grand? Yeah. Holy crap.
But the beams will spread that all the way out, so you just have one on either side, basically.
How do you get a steel beam like that into a building like this that's already built?
Bring it in, slide it in.
Slide it in what? In that door?
Bring it in there, bring it inside here, yeah, and then bring it in, it'll fit.
I would come here just to watch
Are you
that.
allowed to say what the cost of this is right now?
I have no clue what it's gonna be yet.
Ballpark?
The cost of all of this, like if we even went to this plan.
About $100,000 so far? Holy shit.
Plot thickens. We just discovered something that's really crazy, and that is there were already posts in here, and before we came in, someone took them out. So he was just giving us the measurements. Do you see that?
One metal beam to the other side.
That's where the posts need to go. That's where something previously was, and then there's the plate that's just blended in because it's painted white. Somebody previous to us took them out. Now, previous to us, the only person in here was the owner, the landlord. Look, here's another one. Here's where the other one was. You can see where it was in the floor, and then yeah, it goes up to the plate. Guess what he did?
Cut them out.
The landlord, the owner, wanted to put cars in here, just like we do, and he basically got rid of those so that he could fit the cars in between the posts. Sounds like steel beams are the solution, right?
Sounds good to me. Yeah,
Thank you. We'll see you soon. Well, that sucks.
Yeah.
How did you not know about the concrete?
I was on the call and they mentioned adding supports and they mentioned the walls, basically taking the drywall off, adding more beams. I was like, big deal, right? But the concrete thing was news to me today. Number one, we spent like 80,000 or whatever dollars on these floors being polished. They won't match now.
All the electrical in the back.
Yeah, there's 10 grand.
And the lighting.
12 grand.
The biggest issue is honestly the inconvenience. They want everything out of here. They want all the equipment in the back room taken out. They want all the cars taken out. Like that's not a joke.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah, we're not sure because we have 2 options. Basically go along with what they're planning on doing here, which is super intrusive and screws that whole back room up for fab. And the mezzanine we don't really need, but the landlord is insisting that, you know, she keep it. I guess the obvious reason, I mean, it's kind of already there. It adds this to the rent because it's more square footage you can add. The downside is right now it's all illegal. So for the whole last year, that's been illegal.
It's actually not safe. If you look at the
It's
beam
bending.
being cut out like that, like it is a safety issue, which I wasn't aware of until today.
The thing is basically we go along with what they want and get completely screwed. We need to be compensated for that on some level, which screws us in the long run. We got 4 more years of being here, so we have to choose what we do very wisely. The other option is we leave. We leave this place, find another place, which is not what we want to do. But it's the only options we have. We're getting screwed either way. Even if we got all our money back and moved, you know how big of a inconvenience that is? Anyhow, now I'm getting pissed off. Thanks for watching this video. Find out in the next one what happens. On this plan, every one of the additional beams actually just falls exactly where the last one was.
That's messed up.
Give me a very curious face. Like, not like you're pooping, like you're curious.
A little bit.